Hello again and welcome to the Warhammer 40k Imperial Guard Tactics video. Now before we get into today's video, as per tradition, I want to say a huge thank you to Alexander Stupakov, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, for sending in some awesome pictures of his Sentinels, which he has recently painted up and added to his Cadian 512th. And thanks to these three bad boys, he can now effectively run a brigade. Absolutely love the camo scheme. Love the Scout Sentinels and the extra bits you've added on. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you for sending in the pictures of these guys. And before I forget, I just want to say I actually really like the attention to detail you've done on the bases as well. If anyone else has got any cool pictures they want to send in for me to use, please post them on my Facebook page. There will be a link down in the description below. Now, without further ado, let's crack on with today's video. And we're going to be doing another regiment review. By popular demand, we will be doing the Steel Legion. Now, I know many of you have also been asking for me to do Death Corps of Krieg and Elysian Drop Troops. I can confirm I will be doing those regiments, guys. Do not worry. However, I will be covering all the Codex regiments first and then moving on to the Forge World ones. I just want to get the Codex ones sort of completed and then we can move on to the more obscure Forge World ones. Now, we're going to be looking at Steel Legion today. A regiment which I have a lot of history with, a lot of experience with, and so I've got good insight on how I personally have found the regiment to work very effectively. So as we have done in the last few videos, we'll do a quick fluff segment on Armageddon. Now, Armageddon is actually one of the few planets, few war zones which has been extensively covered by Games Workshop. There must be half a dozen, if not more, novels on the planet. The fluff has been well established all the way since about like 2nd edition, 3rd edition. So I could do an entire video on the fluff for these wars and for what Games was covered. However, there's already plenty of that sort of content out there, and I just want to do a quick fluff overview. I could spend 10 minutes just summarising it. And I don't want to do that. I just want to give you a quick fluff overview. So essentially, guys, Armageddon is a hive world. Unlike the other planets that I've talked about, like Talan and Valhalla, which suffered sort of a natural or something out of their control, cataclysmic climate change, Armageddon has become an industrial wasteland because of the Imperium. It's such a mineral-rich world with such a great manufacturing base that the Imperium for thousands upon thousands of years has been polluting the planet, and as a result, huge areas. Basically, the planet's split into 3 parts. You've got the majority of the land, which is just industrial wasteland and desert. You've got, which is also known as the Ash Sea. You've got the hives themselves, and that they are proper hives. They're not just normal cities. And you also have the huge forested area, which splits the 2 main continents of the planet. Armageddon's seen 3 wars. The first war for Armageddon is a bit hush-hush because it involved chaos and the Inquisition covered it up. The second and third war for Armageddon involved the Orcs, especially Ghazghkull Thraka. This is where Ghazghkull and Yarrick both earn their names, where they're bitter rivals. And there's a lot of detail on these war, guys. There's a lot of books on it, and I highly recommend you look into it. Armageddon is one of the best covered war zones by Games Workshop, even more so than Cadia in some crazy ways. Personal books that I'd recommend for you to check out is Hell's Reach, which covers the Black Templars, and you should read all of them, but the Last Chances, the 3rd Last Chances book, in the Last Chances series. You should check those out. They're both quite good at conveying the wars on Armageddon, especially the Last Chances one. So, yeah, they're not afraid of war. They're not afraid of war. They're not afraid, and they are a huge industrial base. I think Armageddon has produced the Chimera chassis not only for the sector, but for the entire segmentum. It's a planet the Imperium literally cannot afford to lose. No price is too high to pay. It is Armageddon on Armageddon. It's that important. There's no amount of men the Imperium wouldn't throw that. They throw entire chapter space marines to hold that planet. It will hold. It's as important as Cadia is, and it took a Black Crusade to get rid of Cadia. 13 of them, to be precise. So anyway, let's get on with the regiment today. The rules, not just the fluff. So, Armageddon Steel Legion regiment doctrine is industrial efficiency. To the Steel Legions of Armageddon, the pitiless mathematics of industrialized slaughter have become a grim fact of life. One by one, their foes are butchered with a dispassionate efficiency. Infantry units with this doctrine may double the number of attacks they make with rapid-fire weapons at a range of up to 18 inches rather than half the weapon's range as normal. Vehicles with this doctrine treat attacks against them with an AP of -1 as having AP 0. So essentially you ignore AP -1 and you have an 18-inch rapid-fire range. Both of those are very nice. Both of those are very effective. It's what's very good about the Armageddon Steel Legion is it's a bit like, it's not a top tier regiment. We're gonna lay that groundwork down now. It's not a top tier regiment. It's not a trash tier regiment either. It is, I would say, equal to Talan, just below, or yeah, maybe equal to, maybe slightly above Talan, or equal to slightly below Vestroyan. Sort of in between, slightly above Talan in my opinion, slightly below Vestroyan in my opinion. There's two reasons for that regarding just the regiment trait on its own. Okay, one, as we've talked, the 18-inch rapid fire is amazing. It is. If they had that trait alone, it would be amazing. The fact they get the ignore AP -1 on vehicles is just a Brucey bonus. Okay, 18-inch rapid fire is fantastic because it helps with orders like first rank fire, second rank fire. It helps with plasma guns. What are the two most effective things that infantry can do? Plasma guns, first rank fire, second rank fire. Really, really good. There's not much more to really be said about it, guys. The fact that you can leverage it very effectively is great. I would say every single game I have used Armageddon Steel Legion, the fact that I have an 18-inch rapid fire has made a significant difference to the game. In multiple occasions, the fact that I have an 18-inch rapid fire has won me the game. Because it means think about it this way, I can jump out of my Chimera or I can move within 18 inches. I have my full rapid fire, but when my opponent comes to countercharge me, they move 6 inches. Typically, they'll move 6 inches towards me, which means they've still got a 12-inch charge, 11 or 12-inch charge to get to me. It's very, very important. It allows you to stay in cover. I have won when I've played guard versus guard, especially which you face more often than not because obviously the loyal 32. My opponents have found it incredibly frustrating that I've been able to rapid fire them from 18 inches away in my little bit of cover, and in their bit of cover, they're not able to rapid fire me because they've only got 12-inch range rapid fire las guns. It is a very powerful trait, should not be underestimated, and it does increase your damage output. Okay, it's a bit like the Vestroyan one does help increase your damage output because you're able to shoot them from, get more shots in from further away. I'd almost say that the Armageddon Steel Legion thing is as good as that Vestroyan trait, because whilst the Vestroyans have a 15-inch rapid fire and a 30-inch range, the 18-inch rapid fire does make a big difference. That's why I often think it's equal to Vestroyan. Okay, because the thing with the Vestroyans, which someone accurately pointed out, is when someone gets within that sort of one, you only really get one round of effective shooting with the 30-inch range, and then you only really get one round of rapid fire with the 15-inch. Whereas Armageddon Steel Legion, it's a bit different. You can consistently get that 18-inch rapid fire and keep your opponents away from you. You can kite your opponents around quite effectively. The other part of the trait, the ignore AP -1 on vehicles, is nice. It's a Brucey bonus. It used to be a lot more relevant than it is now. okay, at the beginning of 8th edition, if you can cast your minds back, what was the big meta-busting thing? It was assault cannon spam. How quaint does that seem now, guys? But yes, assault cannon spam was a big problem. Everyone was running Razorbacks with assault cannons or Bals with twin assault cannons. Everyone was slapping assault cannons on everything that they could find. And Steel Legion trait ignored the AP-1 from assault cannons. And because traditionally Chimeras are what the Steel Legion use, so most Steel Legion players should use Chimeras, and at the time Chimeras were superior to Tauroxes anyway, it meant that an assault cannon or twin assault cannon had to wound you on 5s, because it's strength 6 and toughness 7 on the Chimera, and then you got to ignore the AP-1. Meant that Steel Legion were actually a very anti-meta army. Mechanized Steel Legion were a very anti-meta army, and they were probably the few regiments that could justify taking Chimeras under the old expensive points cost. Now, unfortunately, the meta has shifted, and AP-1 is not as prevalent anymore. Tend to see AP-2. And we're talking on things like Knights, for example. Knights are very popular. The Gatling cannon, the rapid fire battle cannon, the two very popular choices, are AP-2. So, it's not as good. However, Steel Legion is still potentially very anti-Tau. And the reason they're still potentially very anti-Tau is because a lot of Tau weapons lack an AP value. Unless they put the advanced targeting system on, which they have to pay points for, and the advanced targeting system on the Tau gives you an additional AP-1. And if you didn't have it, then you get AP-1. And therefore, Armageddon Steel Legion essentially invalidate that. But again, if you take if the Tau player takes Riptides and put an advanced targeting system on the heavy yield burst cannon, it is going to cause you problems. It's not going to help you against things like Long Strike and his triple hammerhead buddies and stuff like that. But it will help you against mass burst cannons, which again seems to be the thing that a lot of Tau players are going for these days. You know, stealth suits with burst cannons, crisis suits are kind of making a bit of a comeback, not too much. Burst cannons, hazard suits, burst cannons, fire warriors with all their shots. Fire warriors do struggle against mechanized lists, even mass fire warriors. So there you go. So they are still relatively anti-meta. Just not as much anymore. Not as much. Obviously, they're quite good against Primaris in all their forms, apart from the Hellblasters. So that's the trait. You can see how it's quite effective. It's not. The reason I think it's good is not only does it increase your durability by encouraging you to take mechanized and putting guys inside and the vehicles being quite tough. Also, it increases your damage output as well, and that is backed up by the Armageddon unique stratagem, which is Armoured Fist. Now, this is an absolutely fantastic stratagem, and it's a simple 1 command point, which means you should be doing it every turn, if you can. Armoured Fist. The Armageddon Steel Legion has perfected the art of mechanized assault. Gas mask troopers leap from their transports into the heart of the foe, last guns blasting. Use the stratagem at the start of your shooting phase. Select an Armageddon infantry unit from your army that disembarked from the Armageddon transport vehicle this turn. You can reroll hit rolls of 1 for that unit until the end of the phase. Essentially, guys, it means... Pardon me, it means you get to put take aim and first rank fire, second rank fire onto a squad of infantry. Which, again, I can't tell you how effective that is. It's amazing. No longer do you have... It's like you don't even need to bother with the laws of commanders and stuff like that. You can just use your Armoured Fist, because what are the two most likely orders you're going to do? Take aim and first rank fire, second rank fire. Not much to say about that. For 1 command point, it's very good. Allows you to get maximum DACA. Allows you to do first rank fire, second rank fire, and still overcharge plasma guns. I mean, think about that on a veteran squad with triple plasma guys. You're getting plenty of shots from the las guns. You're getting plenty of reroll ones to hit with the Armoured Fist. And you're an 18-inch rapid fire plasma gun, not a 12-inch range. Do you see how it does increase your damage output nicely? So that's good. The Armageddon order is also very nice. Oh, their relic, however, before I forget, is dog shit. That's a big fault with it. You can't have everything. It's a skull mask of Acheron. It's pointless. Enemy units within 3 inches of the bearer suffer a -1 penalty to their leadership. Orc units suffer a -2 penalty instead. Relatively pointless, to be honest. Relatively pointless. I don't know anyone who's ever taken it. Not even for fluff. Now, the order is very good as well. So, I'm just going to pull it up now so I can give you the full proper description. I mean, I know what it does, but got to get it right in the wording. Armageddon, mount up. Rapid mechanized redeployments are paramount to the success of the choking ash waves of Armageddon. Until the end of the phase, the ordered unit can shoot and then immediately embark within a friendly Armageddon transport vehicle as long as all the models are within 3 inches of the vehicle. This order may not be issued to a unit which disembarked in the preceding movement phase. So you can't get out, shoot, and get back in one turn. You get out one turn, shoot, and then you get to the next turn, shoot again, and jump back in the transport. So it's fair, it's balanced, but it's powerful. Again, let me tell you why it's powerful, because it increases your damage output. Now, some of you might be saying, how does it increase your damage output? Well, Wellington. What it does is that, let's say you jump out, you get to shoot your shots, and then you get to shoot again and re-embark. Some of you are saying, well, that's just the same amount of damage output as you were doing before. And I would say, yes, it is. But one, you're back in the transport, which is often safer. And two, if you get back inside a Chimera, then the Chimera has its turret weapon, its whole weapon. You may have paid for a pintle-mounted weapon as well. But don't forget, the Chimera also comes with the lasgun array. 2 of them. Which are essentially, it gives you 6 extra lasguns. Now, if you're in rapid fire range, that's 12 extra shots. Okay, and anyone who's ever used Chimeras consistently, like I do, will tell you that the lasgun array is probably the best weapon on there. It's crazy. Now, what's interesting is the lasgun array. There must be someone embarked in the vehicle for the lasgun array to fire. However, it is the Chimera itself which is shooting the lasgun array. So what happens is you get to, with your infantry squad that's outside of the Chimera, you get to use mount up, so you shoot. Then you get to jump back inside the Chimera, and now there's someone embarked in the Chimera, so now they can use the lasgun array. And so essentially you get an extra round of lasgun shots from your Chimera. And it's almost like you get to give them the first rank fire, second rank fire order, right? Especially if you're within 12-inch range with the lasgun arrays, because the vehicles don't get an 18-inch rapid fire. So if you're within a 12-inch range of with the lasgun arrays, you get an extra 12 shots. That's like having an extra round of first rank fire, second rank fire, except for now you're back inside the transport. Do you see what I mean? So it's actually quite powerful and a very nice tricksy maneuver to pull off. Combining those kind of orders, and then in a complete another area, you start using things like the Emperor's Blade Assault Company. You've got people which are disembarking after getting out. And what you're seeing here, guys, is you've got multiple layers of tricks and tactics that you can apply to the Armageddon Steel Legion in a mechanized army. So that's the order, that's the relic. I am sure I am missing something. Done the relic, done the order, done the regiment trait, done the stratagem. The warlord trait. I forget one thing every time. Not today. The warlord trait. Right. Warlord trait. Ex-gang leader. It is common amongst the regiments of Armageddon to recruit from the underhive gangs of the planet's towering metropoli. Those who once had gangs in urban warfare fight dirty even in the field of open war. Add 1 to this warlord's attacks characteristics. In addition, add 1 to any wound rolls made for your warlord in the fight phase. Now, this is an okay regiment trait. I personally think it's quite good, but the problem is it relies on getting into combat with your warlord, which can often be not a situation you want to be in with Imperial Guard. However, if you find yourself consistently in combat, then you can kit yourself out to be pretty nasty at it. And the Armageddon Combat Company Commander is one of it's the second viable close combat build you can do. The first one being the Vestroyan one. So what you do is you take a company commander, you give him a power sword, and you give him the ex-gang leader trait. Okay, so now your company commander's got 4 attacks in close combat. Hit on 3s, not too bad. You then, for the relic, you give him the Blade of Conquest, which is one of Solar Macarius's swords. And what this does is it replaces your power sword, and you get +2 strength, AP -4, D3 damage. That's amazing. So suddenly, you've got 4 attacks, and your strength 5, and you've got +1 to wound. Now, against most enemy you're not going to be able to go around bullying like sort of Space Marine captains. Anything with an invulnerable save is really not going to care too much about the Blade of Conquest. But you can definitely bully. You can fight your way out of combat with a regular squad, and you can fight your way out of combat with sort of lieutenants as well, sort of hero level character rather than lord level character. Does that make sense? And because think about it, you've got 4 attacks hitting on 3, so you're going to get 3 hits, and then you're wounding on 2s because you're strength 5 with +1 to wound against most of these characters, which is toughness 4, and your AP -4. So most people that you're going to be facing in combat won't have an armor save. So that's 3 wounds straight through, and it's D3 damage, which is typically enough to kill a lieutenant or to kill 3 MEQ equivalents. That's a big deal. That's a very big deal. It's quite a nasty combat character. So, I've gone on and on and on and on and on about how good Armageddon Steel Legion is. The important question is, as I did with the Talan, is why don't you see it more often? And it's a very good question. I don't entirely know why you don't see it more often. I think it's a bit under the radar, the Regiment trait. I've used it in multiple tournaments and done very well with it. I think the issue is it's a very difficult one to sort of to put your finger on. It's just not quite as good as the Cadian trait. It's just not quite as good as the Katachan trait. It's a solid trait. It's equal to Vestroyan, I would say. If you have Cadian and Katachan at the top as your top tier regiments, then Armageddon and Vestroyan are very much the middle tier traits. With Talan trying to get in there as well, but the remaining ones, Valhallan, Mordian, and Storm and Militarum Tempestus, they're probably the weakest traits of the Codex. So, I think it's partly because the meta has shifted, so the AP -1 isn't as useful anymore. The 18-inch rapid fire is nice and very powerful, but can be quickly countered by a close combat army just getting in your face. Whilst you're quite tough inside your vehicles, Chimeras aren't super competitive, although they've started to appear in top tier guard lists, which is nice. Armageddon has got a lot of nice little bits which all come together to make a nice solid trait. You could do much worse than choosing Armageddon Steel Legion. If you're going for a mechanized army, this is the big one that people will want me to. I'll probably do a full video on this, but if you're going for a mechanized army, and you probably have to choose between Armageddon and Talan. And my advice would be, if you are going to be very mobile and you want to be zipping all over the place, go for Talan. If you want to have a bit of a tanky gun line that does a bit of maneuverability but just sort of sits there and takes the damage quite nicely, and then sort of turn 3 jumps out and delivers like a well-timed blow, then you want to go for Armageddon. I'd say Armageddon's got better better stratagems and stuff like that. Ambush is okay, but it's 3 command points, it's quite pricey. So there you go, guys. That's what I think of Armageddon Steel Legion. It's a very good trait. It's just not, again, it doesn't quite do what Cadians and Katishan does, but it's still very tasty. Still very tasty. I've run plenty of games with it. I would say you can run Armageddon Steel Legion in any friendly, semi-competitive game, and you'll probably win. Its power quickly plateaus and then drops off when you go up against the top tier lists. I think that's why it doesn't quite make it into the top tier, even with all its nice little bits. It doesn't quite have what it takes to get into the top. Unlike Cadian and Katishan, which can, pure Cadian Guard armies, pure Katishan Guard armies, can make it into top tier tournament circles with no allies or anything. They can do that. So, there you go, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for listening. Tell me what you think. And of course, I'll see you guys next time.